All right, I see the thumbs up. Can we all stand for the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everyone, welcome. Donna, can you do a roll call for us, please?
Alderman Petrakos,
Here.
Alderman Capadona,
Here.
Alderman Galogly,
Here.
Alderman Smith, Alderman Deskin.
Here.
Alderman Peretta,
Here.
Alderwoman Tardelson.
Here.
All right. I know that Brian's working big hours. He's not able to make it. I think Jason's just going to be a little late, so. All right. One thing I'd like to do tonight is, every year Congressman does a Senior Citizen of the Award, Senior Citizens Award of the Year. And he had a breakfast and was able to kind of honor these folks who were nominated. This year, 3 of the nominations from all of his district were from Lockport. And because of that, I had asked those folks to come out tonight and we could just kind of honor them. And if, I don't think Edie's here, but Phil and Jack, if you and your wives can come up to the podium, I'd just love to acknowledge. All right. So I just want to say thank you so much for all that you do. I will start with Jack Piccolo. Jack Piccolo and his wife Carol just got back from vacation a little while ago, so good for you guys. But when they're not on vacation, they're working really hard all the time. Most of you may know, but some may not, is that Jack is the commander of the Lockport VFW post here. Does a great job, oversaw reconstruction not too long ago. It was a wonderful job. But what he was nominated for was that since 2010, he's part of a group called Vietnow. And as Jack is a Vietnam veteran, he has a big heart for veterans from that era and others. And so he's always going down into Chicago where he passes out food and clothing to the homeless. Not just homeless vets, but all people who are homeless he takes care of. Jack also helps with direct burials at Abraham Lincoln Cemetery, where he makes sure the homeless vets are buried with dignity. I know, Jack, you have a real compassion for the veterans. It shows in all the work that you do at the VFW and all the many hours you put in. And so not only do I want to just thank you for your service personally to our country in Vietnam, but also for all the hard work you've done in all the years past. So thank you so much for being here. And then the other person is Edie Krupinski. She's not here tonight, but I'll just. Edie lives in Lago Vista. She's been a volunteer for 10 years at the Orland Hills Senior Citizens Club, and she's just really well known there. There's a great sense of humor and all the hard work she puts in there. And so she was nominated and won the Senior Citizen of the Year award also. And lastly is Phil Rittenhouse. Now, Phil, I actually nominated you personally. Personally, this is as much for you, Janet, as it is for Phil, because Phil is out of the house all the time, so you have to put up with a lot. But I can't tell you how much it's appreciated. Everywhere I go, Phil is there. If there's, old canal days and people are having to cross the street, Phil is out there. By the way, he's part of the Lockport Emergency Management Agency, and he's also part of the National Weather Service here. So he's the guy who's, when it comes to the tornado sirens, Phil makes the calls. If there's an accident in the middle of the night, when there's a water main break in the middle of the night and, emergency management is needed, Phil is always there. You were the hardest working guy I know, and like I said, everywhere I go, you're in Lockport. And so when they asked me, hey, can you nominate somebody for this? I knew exactly whose name to put in there. I can't thank you enough for all the hard work you do around here, Phil. And Janet, thank you for putting up with it. So it's greatly appreciated. Thanks, folks. I just wanted to say thank you again for being, putting Lockport on the map. So
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And good luck. Do they win?
All right. So what do we got going on tonight? Well, a liaison report. I know, Joanne, you have a lot to talk about tonight, but if you can hold back all the excitement until the CA3 on the agenda, because that's where most of your stuff will come up.
Okay, no problem.
All right, good. Does anybody else have anything from liaison reports you want to talk about? No. We're all good?
Yeah, I don't have any.
Okay. Well, then we'll jump right on down to, Ben, you want to talk about the development?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. And yes, CA1, Development Engineer Consultant expansion kind of leads into part of a liaison report with Jim Petracco. So I'd like to thank Jim and Pam and Amy on staff. We've worked together. Basically, back when times were getting thin with the budget, we had some positions that were never refilled, and we had displaced a lot of those responsibilities to engineering and an outside consultant. As business has beginning to grow again in Lockport, we've had the need to kind of reevaluate how we're doing things, and I just wanted to bring you a memo and a conversation tonight about how we were going to transition some more of this development engineering consultant under the purview of the Community and Economic Development Office under Pam. She's always been the quarterback, the first people that development talks to, and one of the last people they talk to as they get their permits and everything. So, seemed to make a lot of sense, and Jim certainly chime in anytime. But what we're going to do, we're already utilizing J.J. Bennis as a consultant. We're going to expand their role a little bit, and once the budget's approved, we'll be coming back to the council with an engineering services agreement to expand that. I think we spoke to many of you during the budget sessions, the 2x2s, about this, and we did increase some funding for consultants to handle this. So,
Questions about it?
I just wanted to add that it was great. I mean, everyone's staff got together and kind of listed out all the duties and who would work on each one, and then if things needed to change, it's easy to look at one document and say who's picking up this block of work and who's not. And so I think it's great, and it's a great starting point. And if we get busier, it can change. If we get slower, it can change. So it's flexible.
All right. Yeah, Jim, thanks for your hard work on this. I know that you asked me about it, and when they put you on the liaisonship, and you did great work, and thanks for staff and everybody working together to find a solution. All right, very good.
all right. So we'll bring something to you probably in December about that.
All right, great. What else you got?
The next item on your agenda this evening, Mayor and Council, is CA2. It's a fire alarm and sprinkler incentive program with the Lockport Fire Protection District. As you're aware, the city does have a grant program where we try to incentivize property owners to install sprinklers and alarm systems in the town. The Lockport Fire Protection District reached out to us and felt that they were getting a benefit, and it was good for the community that they wanted to also participate in the incentive and financing for opportunities with developers in Lockport. So the Fire Protection District would like to offer a real estate tax rebate, basically 100% of their real estate tax bill for this program, depending on what they invest into. Would be 2 years or 5 years. There's a draft agreement attached in your packet. We found this to be a great additional incentive to hopefully get things built out properly in our town, and there's an agreement in your packet tonight. If you have any other questions, we'd just seeking to put that on consent for the next meeting.
Question?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I didn't understand targeted areas and certain property owners. How are these guidelines set?
Certain areas would be, it's intended for the historic downtown, although it is open to other areas in the town. I think we're not trying to incentivize something at Lockport Square out on Route, on 355 and 159th. We are looking to for older buildings, and then certain property owners. I guess, can you tell me where that
It
is?
says
or-
whereas in the document, whereas, it says, the city has adopted a fire sprinkler and alarm assistance program to provide financial assistance to certain property owners within
Okay.
both the city and the district.
I don't think certain was necessarily intended to identify anyone other than an applicant. So we're not looking to exclude anyone.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, if I could jump in. The Fire Protection District passed an ordinance that required commercial space and industrial space to be sprinkled, and I believe that was right around 2000. And that's why you've got a lot of older buildings that do not have any kind of sprinkler system or alarm system. When they saw the program that the city's offering, they wanted to offer a corresponding program for any building. And I think, is it 2003, any building built prior to 2003. So those would be the buildings that would be eligible for this type of an incentive. And I want to make sure it's clear that the rebate of the real estate tax is only the fire protection district's share of the tax bill. I believe their tax bill is about 11% of the taxes, so I didn't want anybody to think they would get 100% of their tax bill rebated. It's just the fire protection district's share, but it's still a substantial amount that'll help pay for the cost of the sprinkler system and alarm system.
Will the fire district have to physically write a check, or that portion of the tax on the property just will not be collected?
They will do a rebate, which means they'll write a check to the developer. It's actually easier to do that rather than go through an abatement process. The abatement process is fairly complicated, and they're anticipating these amounts will be relatively small. So that's why they'll do a rebate of an actual presentation of a check.
Thank you.
Anything else? I think it's great. I'm really happy to see the fire department partnering up with us on this, and I think it's a great thing. Is this something we can put on a consent agenda? Yes. You good with that? All right. Donna, we'll do consent. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Next item, CA3, gateway signage and landscape enhancements, Thing that staff, Pam and I, and Tesca Associates and Joanne, after you've kind of bestowed her the, was it the Queen of Beautifications, I think?
Yes. No, the mistress.
Pardon me.
Mistress of beautification.
So, part of the code of compliance and beautification of the city, Alderwoman Bartleson has really helped us take ownership of this and take a look at identifying key gateway locations into Lockport, how we can enhance them, whether it's actual physical structures or plantings. I know we're going to have Jody go through a PowerPoint with us tonight just to kind of briefly highlight all the areas. Some of these areas have already had programs in place where the Main Street put a lot of wayfinding signage in. We also had some entry monuments at the south part of town on State Street. And so we were trying to find a way to, without spending the money to replace them all, to at least embrace what we had and then take it a little further so that at least all of the entryways that we thought were critical for traffic would at least have this put in. What I'm looking for tonight, other than to get you up to speed as to where we are from our kind of mini committee, and then where the consultant is going to come in and kind of talk about the individual locations, is that, funding for this, we're looking to spread out over several fiscal years. There's a potential, depending on lead times and deliveries, we might be able to purchase a few of the hardware signs yet this year. We've got some funds we've identified we could use. I have highlighted in your memo a couple of line items next year that we might be able to utilize. And when I list them, I certainly don't intend to use the full amounts that we've budgeted for something else for this. I did have some funding put in for wayfinding and beautification. It's just that the more we worked on this with Joanne and took a look at this citywide, that the scope of the project was a little bigger than I was anticipating, but I think it's important to do it right. And then I would look to do something in 2017 in the budget process to try to complete as much as we can or all of it at that point. Joanne, if you want to jump in on anything? Or?
No, other than, I appreciate everyone taking the time, to get this where we're at right now. I'm real thrilled about this. And tonight I think we'll get a pretty good idea exactly where we're at. And Jody has done a good job in providing that for us, so.
So with that, maybe Jody could come up and we'll just kind of go through some of the individual locations and what our thoughts are on.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for having me. My name is Jody Mariano. I'm a landscape architect with Tesca Associates. We're community planners and landscape architects with offices in Evanston and also in Plainfield. So what I'm going to do is, just as you heard, go through the gateway signage program that we've worked with staff and with Alderwoman Bartleson about. And I understand that you have some drawings in your packets, so I'm going to get to the technical drawings sort of at the end of this, but I wanted to sort of bring you in to how we came to the recommendations that we made. And we're really looking forward to your input. So the purpose of what we're doing tonight is the city's already done a fabulous job with wayfinding signage and some other gateway signs throughout town, and it's a great way to express the community's identity and to let folks know when they've entered into town. So in addition to signage, landscape plays a part, that landscape and signage can work together to help establish a unified appearance and expressing, Lockport's really wonderful identity. And then by including gateway signs at the perimeters of town, it sort of helps reinforce the wayfinding signs that you've already installed within the downtown area itself. So they sort of work hand in hand to express what Lockport's about. So our scope is to look at all the signs, some of them existing, some of them plan to be enhanced, and some would be new. And we've looked to organize all of this in a way that's clear and easy to read for folks that are coming into town. And then also to create some thematic planting plans for each of those. And the thematic planting plans are really intended to be very simple plantings that, that can sustain themselves in harsh roadway conditions, such as these along the signs. We're coordinating the plans with staff, and we're looking forward to hearing your comments tonight. And then once we have some marching orders to move forward with a portion or all, or however many of these signs the city would like to move forward with, we'll want to go and make sure that we get approvals from the agencies. So you have some roads that are jurisdiction by IDOT, some by Cook County, so we'll make sure we do our due diligence that way. And then once we have permitting in place, these drawings that you've got before you in the packets are set up that they can turn very quickly into permit level documents and bid level documents. So in starting our assignment, what we did first was we wanted to get an understanding as to what Lockport was all about. We looked at Lincoln Landing. It's a really wonderful example of a public open space, and we really appreciated some of the plantings that were out there. And we thought that these could be some thematic plantings that we can use moving forward. Now, these pictures are all taken in the fall, so your Lockport flower, which I was really thrilled to hear about, which is the nodding onion or the allium, aren't pictured here, but we've got them incorporated in the planting plans. But, as far as what we did was we took those plantings, we sort of triangulated them with the plantings that could sustain themselves in harsh roadway conditions, and we came up with a plant list that's common for all. And these are plant lists that we've used successfully in the past, but also have a place in Lincoln Landing. So, the trees and shrubs are listed here. The perennial grasses, just like you have at Lincoln Landing, maiden grass, and then the flowers are listed here. They're intended to all be seasonal, that you get different colors and varieties throughout the year, but then you'll see the flowering onion is in here, and that's the photo at the bottom left. It's a bulb. So we've got these all incorporated into the planting plans. A little bit about your existing signs. So a lot of different signs going on, but there are some similarities between all the signs. You see a lot of the native stone up on the top left. That's what we call the city gateway sign. Down at the bottom left, this is a unique sign down by the 9th Street in the bridge. We just call that the limestone wall sign, just for lack of better explanation. And then on the right-hand side, you've got your wayfinding signs that are in downtown that are very successful. And in the middle, the train station sign. The train station sign, we believe, is the model for what we're calling the downtown sign. So I've got a map that'll explain all this, but in general, if you look at the top left, that city gateway, the city gateway sign, that's the large monument that you would first be greeted with when you're coming into town from the neighboring towns or from the region. So you first enter into Lockport, you see the city gateway sign, and then once you come in a little bit closer, then you're greeted with the downtown sign. So you're sort of working your way into the city this way. There are some planned future sign types. The top left, this is what we call the city gateway sign with just a new panel on it, just a refresher. So it looks like this today with a lot of the newer signage that's happening in the heart of downtown. This sign panel mounted in between the masonry piers would be a more updated, reflective of your identity. On the right-hand side, the downtown gateway sign, this is very similar to your Metro train station sign in the middle. So that would be placed when you first enter the downtown area. So it's the first thing that you see just before you get into downtown. You know, when you come in off the highway, via 159th, for instance, and the character is very auto-oriented, very commercial. The character sort of changes around Madison Street. That sort of thing happens as you're entering into downtown from the surrounding areas. So that's where these downtown gateway signs would be very useful in sort of communicating that, hey, you're entering into a really special zone. On the bottom, This is an LED sign that staff shared with us that is planned near Lockport Square down by 355 and 159th Street.
Some of the new may not have seen that before. Prior council approved that agreement with the sign company. They're out to get permits with IDOT. So the reason you see the brown iron along with that sign is that it's meant to go with the shopping center signage that's been approved that also has the brown iron on it. So there was some debate on whether we'd want to change that or not to try to be more cohesive. And is it better to try to theme with where it's going to be, or is it better to be themed with throughout? And since this was already approved that way, we thought it might be okay as long as it had we might have the plantings changed around that sign to look like those other centers. And the sign company has agreed to build those out to this plan at their cost. So that's another good opportunity to let them pay for some of the improvements. Sorry.
So these are our sign types, for a lack of better description, but the letters that are shown here are just sort of our keys that we can keep in the backs of our minds what all these signs are called, because there are a lot of them and they're kind of placed throughout town. So that CG is City Gateway sign, that's from the largest scale. That LED sign is the sign that Ben just mentioned. LW is the limestone wall sign. DG is the downtown gateway sign. And then M is not a sign at all, but it's a median planting that we thought was an opportunity, since there are some lawn landscape medians up along 159th, just west of 355. And so in the same way that gateway signs and landscapes can be gateways into the community, so can a median be a gateway into the community by the way that it's planted. So here are the signs that you have today. You have that limestone wall in the heart of town at 9th Street. That City Gateway sign is down near Delwood Park. And then all the way at 167th and Cedar is another City Gateway sign, and that's near that Victoria Pond and that development. And then in the box is, the downtown wayfinding and Metro signs. So we're not proposing to do anything with those downtown signs. They're just here for reference. So everything in orange is here today. Just as the CG signs are at the west, or at the east, and also at the south, we wanted to balance that out, so as you're entering town from the north, you have other opportunities to be greeted into town. So all the way up north, down near Archer and 355, we understand from staff that there might be in the future a potential development. And along with that development could be an opportunity for a sign, because it is so close to the municipal boundary. So that is sort of a placeholder for the future. It's not something that we're planning in the near term, but we wanted to keep it in the backs of our minds. But as you can see on Archer, and right near Archer and New, or I should say New and State, there's an opportunity for a City Gateway sign here. And so our City Gateway signs then are sort of framing all of our entrances into town from, north, south, east, and then the limestone wall in a way already functions that way. The next level in, if we're doing sort of hierarchical signage, would be the downtown gateway sign. So these would be the greens. So once you've been greeted by a City Gateway sign, your next step in is sort of the finer detail, that smaller sign that looks like the Metro sign. So those would be these downtown signs, and they're located on State Street on the north and south, and then also at 159th right near Madison Street. And then lastly would be the median plantings and the LED sign that you heard mentioned earlier along 159th near Lockport Square. So this is our gateway sign map. We've done a couple of visualizations to show how these things all go together. So the landscape plantings that I mentioned earlier, with everything that kind of comes from Lincoln Landing and the allium, put together with the signs and the new sign panels. These renderings just show some examples as to how they would look when in full bloom. So this is the City Gateway at 167th and Cedar. I do want to mention that at this location, the sign that's currently there is facing in a different direction. And so the recommendation here is to reorient the sign and place it so that it's actually facing the way that people would read it as they're coming into town. So that's what's shown here. And then you see the plantings, the perennials and the shrubs in the front. with trees and tall grasses in the back. And that's a really simple planting plan. It's sort of repeated throughout. So the same thing at New and State. You might recall that there's a guardrail near here. This is that city gateway sign. This would be a brand-new sign, again, with a similar type of a planting palette. And then the limestone wall at 9th Street, we haven't mocked up the plantings. It would be a similar planting plan. But what we did want to suggest is to think about enhancing the lettering on this sign so that it's more apparent. Today, and I can scroll back real quick, but today the lettering has a lot smaller letters, and it's a little bit difficult to read, and so we wanted to study what it would look like if it was placed on an acrylic background, and simplifying the lettering and enlarging it so that you really see it. You got quite a captive audience waiting here at the bridge, so we thought that this was an opportunity. Then once we've kind of marked all of our perimeter locations, the downtown gateway treatment, this is an example at 15th and State Street. The Metra parking lot is just on the other side of State Street here, and so this is the pole-mounted sign. It's placed in between the sidewalk and the curb with plantings at the base. The median design at 159th and 355, you'll see where the two landscape medians currently exist, and so the thought is to just replace sections of the lawn with trees and grasses and shrubs and perennials. The LED sign, we had some discussions internally whether the LED sign would still be visible because, as I'm sure you can tell, if you were coming in off of the tollway and you saw the LED sign, you would be looking at it from the opposite side of the street. But there's a break in the medians here, so we believe that with the placement of the trees and the plants, you'll still be able to view the LED sign. We tossed around some ideas as to whether that LED sign might want to be on the north side of the street, but we still feel you'd be able to see it pretty readily in this location. So with that background, these are the plans that are in your packets, and I'm not going to repeat all of it, but it's essentially the same idea. This first sheet shows the locations and all of the sign types that we've talked about, and then each of these following sheets is set up to have a locator map at the top right that shows you where the signs are located, a visualization or a photo that shows you what it would look like if you were on the road looking at the sign, a plant list, and then a landscape plan on the left-hand side. And these are set up this way so that when it's time to go to permit or to go to bid, they're ready to go. And we understand that their budgets are not necessarily in place to have all of these installed immediately, but at least this is sort of a plan to move forward and to plan from. So I'm not going to, I do want to mention, this is the one at 167th and Cedar. So you can see the existing gateway sign up at the top, but as folks are entering into town from the east, they're traveling along 167th Street, so that sign, as you know, isn't really very visible in that location. So that's the reason to recommend its relocation here. These are the downtown gateway signs. This is the one up at State Street and 3rd near Godfather's Eatery. The other gateway sign, these are all near restaurants. This is the one by the Burrito Habanero place. And then lastly, the downtown gateway sign that's on the east side. This is on 9th Street, just before Madison. So right as the character changes from commercial to sort of historic residential, this is where we saw was an opportunity. And this is a planting plan for the median plantings. I do want to mention that we're not recommending, or we have not budgeted in the cost estimate to run irrigation or lighting to any of these locations. And so we've talked with staff about maintenance for these plantings. I mean, they're low maintenance to begin with, but they will still require watering in the hot months, and they'll require seasonal maintenance as well. This is an example of the gateway signage. So you can see the limestone wall sign, that bottom middle piece. There's a lot of words, but really the gist of it is that we want to welcome people into Lockport. So this mock-up, that's large, shows an acrylic sign backing that would have new dimensional acrylic lettering mounted to it. There's uplighting here, so we think that that would be able to be very visible from the street. And then the LED sign, again, a planting plan for the LED sign here. You can see the orientation of that sign is sort of an upside-down V shape so that it's visible from both sides of the street if you were traveling eastbound or westbound. And the plantings are similar plantings as what we're recommending elsewhere in the city. So the budget is organized in your packet. They're organized by the project code, the project type, the location, and then in some cases we have sign budgets. In some cases we don't, because we understand that some of these signs have already been budgeted and paid for. So the budgets that are shown here under the sign budget are budgets that the city has received but has not yet purchased. So we're including them here for reference. And then the landscape budgets, as I said, these are for plantings and soil amendments and mulches only. It includes labor, assumes prevailing wage form of delivery of a project, but again, does not include things like irrigation and lighting. So that's where we're at, and our next steps is, we are interested to hear everyone's input, but then also we work with staff to select what would be the next phase of projects, prepare the permit documents for IDOT and county approval, however it relates to which roadway jurisdiction, and get their permitting before going on to bidding. I'm happy to take any questions.
Anybody up here got a question?
Yeah, I do. I like it. I think it all looks great. I especially like median plantings. I think it really brings out the city. Like when you go downtown Chicago, I think they do a great job of it.
Mm-hmm.
My only question is, I know that there are a lot of current median plantings. Is there going down to Archer, like into historic downtown? There's a lot of median plantings there. Have we looked at that to see if we want to change that to make it consistent with what your plans and drawings are for elsewhere in the city?
That's a really good point. To be honest, I haven't looked that closely at those, but we'll be sure to do it because it's a great point. We've already tried to sort of unify all of these, and if we're going to do it at 159th, we might as well think about it elsewhere as well.
Yeah, and that goes straight into downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be a great point
That's a
to
good
maybe
point.
do that there as well.
Great. Thank you.
That's a good idea, because, we do have trees there already, and it would be great to put a little bit of flowers to kind of brighten it
Right,
up
and just
stuff.
make the
'Cause
plantings
it's a little,
consistent
yeah, it's
throughout.
very plain right now, absolutely.
Right.
Certainly, maintenance and watering will be a mild concern. I mean, we have summer staff that we hire, usually college kids that are part-time, and they'll be watering the downtown flowers. So for them to take a little extra time to make sure some of these other plantings get some water, I don't think it'd be too bad for the Public Works to manage. So for tonight, we just wanted to kind of bring this to your attention, that this is something that we've been working on. We're not necessarily looking for a funding approval tonight. We're just looking to gain consensus that the council is interested in us spending more staff time on this and potentially getting a jump on some of these signs and letting the staff utilize the budgets that are available and with Pam and I and Lisa to acquire some of these things and kind of chunk some of this out, kind of set a priority list. Certainly be able to do a little more next year, and then, like I said, I think during the budget process in 16 to finalize most of this in 17. And we can go two ways with this. We can kind of do it the way I'm suggesting, where it's got a little bit of a piecemeal, but we start making some progress on it, or we could spend more staff and consultant time to really narrow down the exact cost for everything, come back to the council at some point with a large, PO request to do it all at one time. But I felt that spreading it out over the budget for 2 or 3 years was a better approach, taking advantage of some opportunities of some funding today or in the near future. And certainly where it deems appropriate, we would bring individual purchases back to the council for approval if we were going to spend over $20,000 on any one thing. But most of these signs, the hardware itself can be purchased from $6,000 to $10,000. We might be able to get a couple of them ordered yet this year, as long as we can receive them before the end of the year. We can hold them in Public Works and then have them installed next year with additional funding. So I'm just looking for just general feedback from concept.
I do have I had a number of questions. You answered most of them throughout your presentation. But, so I live right by 167th and Cedar. And quite honestly, I haven't paid that much attention to this. But then when this came up and I did my reading, driving by there, the sign just makes no sense to me, right? Because basically the only way you see it is going northeast, and essentially the next two, like, non-lights, you miss those and you're out of Lockport, right? So I do understand turning it, and, you know, kind of from what I see, it looks like, and I think you even mentioned it, it would be for people coming east, coming from the east, so going west.
Yeah, people
into
entering the
Lockport.
city from the east.
My question or concern there is, you know, I drive through there a number of times a day. Almost nobody comes from the east on 167th and Lockport. The few people that do come from that side are just turning onto Cedar to get to 355. So, you know, I get it, there's an existing sign there. It doesn't make any sense. Turning it is slightly better, but is it really even a great use of... Ideally, if we owned one of the other corners there, right, if they were Lockport property, I get it, right, it's probably an ideal corner. But the fact that the only part there that's Lockport property is that northeast corner, I mean, frankly, do we pick that sign up and move it somewhere? I don't know that it provides a whole lot of value. And not that it's a huge expense, but now we're adding, you know, planting and things that all, on the drawings, look nice. Just don't know about that spot.
It was moved by, I think, prior Public Works staff, so it's not set on a great foundation or anything, so it probably needs to be addressed anyway, so that's why we thought, well, we'll just move it to the other corner. But you make a good point, if
The other thing is, if
It can't be moved to another corner, it can just basically be turned on that corner, right? Isn't that?
Well, we could have it disassembled and reassembled anywhere you want.
Yeah.
So we could use that structure to
And that's my point.
repoint it,
On
new avenue.
167th and Cedar, there's no other corner that I think we can use because they're
Correct,
not Lockport
correct, yeah.
property. Doesn't make sense to just literally move it somewhere completely else.
if that's really said, because if we do use that, you know, that particular sign somewhere else, actually move it, it's been moved once, I know, but just put something more of the other signs, the green signs, maybe that might be more logical to have in that corner, because you're right, you don't really have a lot of drivers, other than if they're going to be turning or going through those streets or whatever. So it might be something we can talk about, and maybe using that somewhere else, and then using more simpler sign for that corner, and then putting the plantings, you know, just to kind of dress it up like we are the other ones. What's the thought?
I don't know if there's an answer, right? It's just kind of one of the...
Yeah, no,
Opinion-based.
Odd thing.
it's, we don't have a photo of it, but as Ben mentioned, it's leaning over, so we thought, gosh, it's got to be fixed, and so, for sure. But yeah, it seems like a pretty quiet section of road.
Yeah.
Something needs to be there though, Jason, only because that is part of Lockport, and it'd be good for people to know that they are either entering or leaving or whatever, Lockport. I mean, I see that in a lot of
I
other
think that's up for
towns.
debate as well. I'm with you. My mother-in-law lives out there, and she's in Homer Glen. She's one block north. So
Yeah,
if you're going one direction, and you're going the other, it's Lockport. So it's almost, you need to put that on 167th coming in toward more like Prime Boulevard or something. If
Yeah.
you really want to welcome people into
And that was my
Lockport.
thought, is maybe that corner totally makes sense looking at a map, but when you see what is actually Lockport there, that's the only corner that is. So even if it's just in there, or if it's just one of the other signs, you know,
Right.
totally different location, I don't know.
Jody, is there room in the right-of-way there where you could put it on an angle facing the intersection? And would that be appropriate, or I'm just throwing that out there?
You know,
But that's not Lockport, I don't think, right?
That's Lockport.
Or the northwest.
Literally on the other side of these trees.
yeah,
basically.
northwest is,
Is undeveloped.
Northwest corner facing the intersection, diagonally at the intersection, would cover you going north and going east, and that covers the most of it.
Going north isn't really Lockport anymore, but going west.
The left side is, so
Well,
you're
I
still-
think what we'll do is, let's
Just figure it
put we'll put a little more thought on it. It did come up in my mind too. I know it faces weird. I thought somebody must have made it to have it face Cedar for a reason. Maybe it's because they feel like that's where people come in and out, not 60. We'll just put a little more thought into it.
Yeah, that's one location, and it's nothing we need to act on now.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
We can
no.
deal with that in 2016 or in 17.
Right.
You know, I think supportive comments that I would feel comfortable, you know, spending $6,000 on a sign face or two to try to get them in here into Public Works, and then we can kind of figure out the installation next year and be opportunistic with the budget. There's actually some funding that, as I mentioned, that might come available through the LED on their site. So there's, I've actually mentioned it to the Park District about possibly helping us with the planting. So I think there's some ways to stretch our budget as much as we can when we can.
Ben, reminder, what did we spend? Because I saw the 180,000 at first, and
Yeah.
I thought, oh, okay, it includes an LED sign.
It
that we
doesn't,
already
no.
approved, but that doesn't even include
No,
it. So
no.
what is that? Because that was pretty pricey, too.
The
right?
LED sign is probably a $250,000 investment,
Right.
but that's not on us.
Right,
The
right,
sign
yeah.
company will pay for that, and then do some sales advertising on it to get their investment back. So there's really no cost to the city for the LED location. And I've already talked to him, and he agreed to do the plantings to match whatever we end up deciding to do at his additional cost. So he's going to pay about another $6,500 in plantings just to kind of assimilate with us.
And then I know you said that it wasn't the concern now, which I understand, but, you know, cutting a budget that we haven't approved yet to fund
Yes.
something else is
Sure.
not really where my mind would go on something
Right,
like that.
and that's where I did list just some ideas, so that this is not necessarily saying we would make these changes. What I really looked at is kind of the wayfinding signage, the line item that I put in for about 35, and there was a $50,000 tree item. That's for parkway trees anywhere in the city, so if we used a portion of that for these trees, I thought it might make some sense. I'll work with Amy on it, so I fully expected you to ask that question, so I'm glad. So, but yes, I mean, I guess I'm asking to let staff kind of work with the consultant, and we can bring back opportunities to you to take advantage of these where we can. I don't expect to do a whole lot of these in 15 or 16. I think the bulk of it will be budgeted in 17, but as we kind of work out some of these sites and details, and if the expenditure gets a little higher or needs to be, we'll certainly come back to you guys for approval on anything like that.
Can I throw in, we talked about financial, can I speak about architecture real quick? I'm 100% behind the gateway signs and everything that we're doing and the concept behind getting the borders, defining our borders and everything. What I have an issue is some of our concepts, like what the branding is. We've got a lot of different signs, it's a lot of different looks. Even when we're looking at that stuff, I was talking to Ben about this, the limestone gate that's there by the tracks is very iconic. It's Lockport, it's limestone, it's got the planter. The other ones that we're looking at here with, you know, the Lockport sign, it's a big wood sign that's across, looks great, I like it and everything like that. And I was like, okay, well, we have two of those, so let's figure out how we can use those, plus the limestone one, make everything else work. And then what I'm hearing is we really only have one, because the other one's gonna have to be taken down, rebuilt somewhere else, so that's off the plate. The one that's on State Street is, the whole face, the wood face would have to be redone, so that's still, you know, up in the air there. So we don't have to put that much bang into this gateway, but it's more of a question to the board of saying, what represents Lockport to you? You know, I looked at it and I said, maybe it's that limestone wall with the planter, and that's at all our gateways, or we make that decision and say that's the gateway to our downtown. Those are always the downtown ones, that's limestone walls. Can you bring that picture up of that one?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think your comments were echoed by our mini committee with Joanne, Pam, and Jody and I, that we were looking at what pieces we had and, you know, where do we want to go to try to bring a more cohesive look to all of them.
Right.
You know, and admittedly so, there's about 3 different types of identities here, but with the amount of signs that were already done in the wayfinding with the Main Street grant a few years ago, and that's what kind of started these other ones for the Metra. And that's kind of how some of this got started, is we started working on, we replaced that sign there that had the coffee shop on it at one time to match the downtown. We've actually already, if anyone's noticed, we've already refaced those Lockport Gateway signs. That was something I had done earlier this year before we started having these conversations, and I think that's what kind of got us going to, so what are we doing here? Are we going to piecemeal this, or let's look at a more cohesive effort? So I think, unfortunately, we're a little fractured, but unfortunately, that's because there's so much inventory already existing.
Yeah,
It's just
the
an
two
opinion.
metal ones, I have no problem with the wayfinding and all that stuff that's there. The choice is the lower left or the upper left, like what do you want as your city gateway to actually do that? So that's a decision that the board should, you know, when you're looking at that. And then we're kind of missing that 159th Street entrance off of 355. We have the median, which, great idea with the median, putting trees, doing all that stuff. I thought the LED sign was a great thing too, but that is also being advertisements and everything. So it's not just a City of Lockport sign. Because I was telling Ben, I'm like, maybe we should put that stone and make it look like the limestone wall there around the LED. But it is more of the shopping center stuff too. There's other advertisements.
Doesn't it have it on the bottom?
It does. I think
City of
that
Lockport?
they will emulate, that we've used this, it may not show up very well here in the drawing, but the point was to be more of this Lockport limestone look
Right.
to it. So this is obviously an early.
And I'm on
version.
board with this. Again, the architect and me, sorry, but that Lockport sign that's on the bottom always gets overgrown with bushes and shrubs and everything, and nobody ever sees that because it's that low. You can probably attest to that. So something else we can do, maybe put Lockport up high and leave that as the shopping center one, but still do something in that median, some type of gateway that's just a Lockport gateway sign there, either that upper left one or the limestone one, something there. And that's just a choice of, I could easily see the limestone wall just being you entering downtown, historic downtown, that's what is following there. These larger ones maybe is the,
Are you saying at the center island on the median as you come into town?
if there's something that we can do there with
It is a little
Town or,
challenging.
Are we talking about 159th Street?
159th Street
what
in
I
the
thought.
median.
You know, why don't we look at it this way? Jim, if this is something that, I'd like to use your expertise on it. I mean, as we move forward, obviously, we're not building these tomorrow, but if you want to get together with Joanne on this kind of subcommittee and put your input in, I think that'd be good.
Because IDOT probably won't allow you to put a cement structure in the island like that. Unfortunately, it'll have to be more soft goods. I think Jody would probably echo that, but.
And like I said, instead of
there's
hashing
things
it
we
out
can
here,
do. Yeah,
I think it's
right,
best to
yeah,
do it
we're
on a
getting a little long in the
subcommittee.
tooth here, but,
If I could, I could comment a little bit on that. A couple of things I think were mentioned that are important. The limestone wall that's right at 9th Street, it's got very fine texture, pretty small text. And so when we've got these city gateway signs that are sort of at the perimeters, we want to keep in mind that the text needs to be substantially larger just so that you can see it. So the size of the text in some ways kind of informs the size of the sign. So we'll want to keep that in mind. But I do love the idea of using the materials of Lockport to kind of tell a story about, what the city's about. And then the second thing regarding the median, so we've run into this a lot in the past. IDOT will permit us to put structures within a median so long as it meets their offsets. So it's a 4-foot required offset from the face of curb to whatever it is, whether it's a tree or a structure or a sign. So we can look at that. I mean, these are fairly wide medians. I think that we've even measured it for you. So it's 24 feet wide median. So that kind of gives you a sense as to how much space we have. The other thing that we can do is we can use limestone sort of in an informal way as outcroppings, as a way, to kind of
Awesome.
embrace that. So sure, I think it's a great idea.
Well, just a few things from my point of view. Just quickly, I made a few notes. We already talked about the 167th and Cedar thing. Take some more look at that. The alliums, I think they're really great. I love them. We call them alien balls in my house. One thing I've noticed with them, though, is they get smaller and smaller every year until they stop blooming. So they do have to be replaced. They do maybe require more maintenance than the average bear. So I would just put that out there, something to think about.
Yeah. Well, alliums, so there's the bulb variety and there's also a perennial variety. And we might consider mixing that so that we can sort of, overcome some of those issues, but.
Because the first year, they look great, and then
Yeah.
okay. All right, so that's just quickly. The trees on the medium at 159th, make sure these sign guys who are paying for this understand there's going to be trees there. They may not be
Right.
happy about
We're going to
that.
probably want to work with this design a little bit. It may be not exactly what you see here, maybe one less tree one way or the other. We need to work with them because
Okay.
they're making quite an investment with a prior contract with
Right.
us that I don't want to
Yeah, so-
really upset them. I've already sent this design to them and had those conversations about the landscaping. He certainly had some concerns. That they're very concerned about reeds, both directions.
Yeah.
And we want that too. I mean, part of the reason we did that was we can put our events and community events on that ad. But I think there's enough of a landing here that we can structure something and maybe we'll end up redesigning another sign into it as well. That one won't be LED, but that's fine.
Okay.
So-
If you're looking at the map, Mayor, though, that LED sign, you see that landscape median location there, the aerial map?
Mhm.
That sign is totally between both medians.
It's a red circle.
Yeah, I've got a better image. Thank you for noticing that. Here's a better image. So exactly your point. You can see the lawn medians that have the M's on them, and then there's a taper. So where that median on the east tapers down, there are no trees in there. So where the LED sign would be located, where it says LED, is sort of out of the way of that.
So I guess my question is, if I'm driving, as soon as I get off I-355 exit, how far back can I start reading that LED sign?
Right.
If there's going to be trees in my way before it tapers down, maybe it's prudent not to put trees up. You just need to talk to the sign guys, because they're putting a lot of money into
Topography
it.
there's a little higher as well, which will help, but he's going to have to be consulted in this
So
process.
just line of sight stuff, I just
I
want to
think
be.
Jim's idea of having Welcome to Lockport maybe in the middle at the beginning of that island might be even more prudent then at that point, because that's the first thing they're going to see when they come in, so.
Yeah, I think going
I
east
think
there.
we actually spoke about that, because that was a concern whether or not we could see that LED sign. And the way I think we were talking about, I don't think it was going to interfere, that we were going to still be able to see that sign. So we
If
are
you guys have
definitely
talked
keeping
about it,
that in
that's good.
consideration, yes.
Very
Well, and-
fluid document at this point. I think we'll work with our subcommittee to continue to progress on these. I think if everyone's okay, we'll just, again, we were not necessarily asking for any approval on anything specifically tonight, but we'll continue to work on this.
Just move
and-
forward.
But I had three, just a couple other quick things real. Jody, contact me. There's a ton of old recovered stone, limestone from the Seven Arches Bridge when it collapsed.
Oh, great.
It's beautiful, cream-colored stone. It's been out and, for 100-something years. We have piles of it. It might be really
Wonderful.
interesting to utilize that stone. I also want to connect you with Midwest Soaring. They're a Native American group that's now in town. They wanted to start doing some native plantings around the train station. I'd like you to have a conversation with them, just so that, just as we're doing this is kind of create some synergy, and there may be things that they propose that could be very interesting, too.
Great.
I see your hand, Rich, just one second. And then, the other thing that's very important for us all to remember is this is also to be done in conjunction with tightening up our ordinances. It's one thing to put a really nice sign over by Godfather's, but there's also S&S right there with a crane that's been sitting there for 25 years. So there's things where we're going to have to tighten up our ordinances, and we are working on that. So it's not just a matter of putting these nice signs up and then allowing a couch to sit out on a yard, over there on State Street for 9 months. So so there'll be conjunction with this. So I want everybody to understand it. And Joanne, thank you for all your hard work on this. Jody, thanks for the presentation. Rich, what did you want to say? You had something to say?
Just from experience and as a taxpayer, I don't mind the limestone and stuff, but I think you should kind of think of doing projects that's maintenance-free. Something that, I could see these flowers looking good now, but in 3 years, there's gonna be weeds growing up, it's gonna start looking distorted. You did a maintenance thing that, do something that'll last 10 years without any maintenance.
Yeah.
As a taxpayer thing, it's gonna look a lot better than putting flowers up or something that in a couple of years they'll need a lot of maintenance and look like crap, so I don't know.
No,
You figure it out.
No, I agree. And that's one of the reasons I want you to talk to Midwest Soaring, when they talked about some native plantings and stuff like that. So I think, yes, the more wash and wear, maintenance-free, the better. There's a line there that we can meet where it doesn't just look wild, but at the same time, it looks good. So I guess that's everything I wanted to say. Has anybody else got anything? Yeah,
One
Bob?
thing I wanted to add, I think a good entryway is at Gauger and Oak. So we could put that in consideration, whether it's 2017, 2018. It's a major thoroughfare going north-south.
Did you say Gallagher in Oak?
Gauger and
Gauger. Great.
a couple
All right.
different locations at the Gauger and Oak location, or you could go a little bit further north, Gauger and Bruce. There's some open space with Homer Township. So there's a couple locations where you could utilize some space to put some additional gateway signs.
Thank you.
All right, so get a hold of me. I'll give you those contact information, let you see that stone. And then, Jim, if you want to help with, on a subcommittee, I'd appreciate your skill set. All right. All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you very much, Jody.
Next item, Mayor, okay with that? The
Yep.
CA4 is an intergovernmental agreement that we're trying to do with the Illinois State Tollway Highway Authority. This is basically a conveyance of excess parcels to the city of Lockport. When the tollway was built, there was a lot of excess land that they had acquired in the region, trying to figure out where they were going to do this. Those excess parcels are part of private property now. They're not needed by the tollway. It's basically public right-of-way that serves the local streets and roads, so we'd like to go ahead and take those from them. They've agreed to convey title to us. Those parcels are primarily located around 151st Street, 163rd, and 167th. Those parcels are non-buildable, and the city will retain those parcels and maintain them as public right-of-way. City staff is recommending approval of a waiver. There's actually some funds that are owed to the city from the tollway from a past agreement. We would like to exchange that for the tollway to redo some fencing out there. They have agreed to do that in this process. We've got the full agreement in your packet. If you have any questions about that, Tom can answer the legal questions on it, but we'd like to seek approval for this.
Any thoughts, questions, concerns?
Is that where we're gonna put our gateway signs? No, did we have, to be real though, do we have plans for this, for these parcels, or?
Part of them are required for, we need to get access for a property owner in the Prime Business Park, I believe it is. But for the most part, it's, the tollway is going to be going up and down their entire length of the southern portion, conveying property. And we've taken some property from them for the Highlands development. We've taken some property around the right-of-ways of the intersections. The ones that specifically 163rd, we wanted to just have control of those. So we're not really taking on any tax burden or anything like that. It's a little additional maintenance from time to time, but they're pretty much just right away.
Okay.
All right. This being on a consent agenda? You good with that? Good. All right, consent, please, Donna.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa?
It's that time of year again for property and casualty and workers' comp insurance renewal. So in the past, our renewal period was a December 1st. We've asked them to align that with our fiscal year. So they've honored the price to get us through December to stay on the existing insurance. So what we have in front of you is for a January 1st renewal. Travelers is, Gallagher is our broker, but Travelers is our insurance for the property and casualty. They kept their rates flat over last year, which is good news. The only increase we saw is for additional assets that we brought on. So that came to a 2% increase for the year. Workers' comp insurance, not so nice. It was a 21% increase. We've had some pretty bad loss ratios, even though we don't have that bad in the year that we're in right now. The last 2 years prior to that were really bad. So we've been working really hard with Public Works and with our insurance company to try and bring those incidents down and to work on safety. So hopefully we can bring that back down to a reasonable number, but that was a pretty big jump for us. Our broker did go out and try and get another insurance, and it was a 62% increase. So we didn't even acknowledge that one. So we're staying with the same two carriers that we have right now. Overall, it turned out to be a 10% increase, but it's still below the budgeted figures. So we're okay for next year's budget. So that's really all I had. If there's any questions.
Anybody? All right. Got to do it. All right, we'll put this on a consent. That's no problem. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Ben, you going to take this next one?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The next item is for engineering, CE1. It's basically a reduction in a letter of credit for Panattoni at the corporate center at 355. It's their first reduction request on the project since it's kicked off. The original bond was set at $3,779,000. There haven't been any reductions yet. We've worked with them. We've inspected the improvements, mostly for the Gauger Road improvements and some off-site water and sewer improvements. This bond is seeking to be reduced by about $2.5 million, $2,556,000 and $885. Amy has reviewed this with their construction company and agrees and concurs with their assessment. So we're recommending the reduction of a letter of credit by $2,556,885. The remaining letter of credit will still be $1,223,075. And that does include the 10% original maintenance bond that we hold for an additional year. So Amy wasn't able to be here tonight, but I did talk to her about this before the meeting and concur with her agreement.
Thoughts, questions? Anybody get it?
I have nothing against this, but that development is going up so quick. It's, I don't know if you guys are driving by that, that's amazing. They're painting out there still in this weather.
I saw this, I was like, man, it seems very quick for them to be coming back, but then you look, it's like, oh.
They move very
Two of the
fast.
three buildings are up there roofing, the second one, or?
Yeah,
As
just-
long as Amy's okay with
Yeah.
that everything's done.
you bet. Everybody okay with consent, sir?
Yep, I'm good with that.
Okay. That's all we have on the regular agenda tonight.
Yeah, what do you got, some new business there?
Yes, if you don't mind, Mayor, just wanted to make an announcement that Central Square here at this facility will have Christmas in the Square, Saturday, November 28th, from 1:30 to 4:30. Santa will be here with live reindeer, and it's a free event for your family, so we just wanted to get that out there and remind people to please attend. I just wanted to mention for Joe, I think he's going to make some comments on the city council about some business, but we've been, maybe Joe, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the podium, leaf pickup has been going pretty well. I think we've been through the entire town a couple of times. He'll tell you more, and maybe want to say something about the snow removal plan this year, because we are getting some forecasted snow this weekend.
On the LEAF program, we're on our fourth pass through town right now. As soon as they finish, we're in Old Kelvin Grove and Port Ridge right now. We should finish the fourth pass through by the beginning of next week. Fifth pass through, leaves will be a little lighter, and we'll pick up leaves until that second week of December, and barring the snow that's predicted Friday into Saturday. They're saying 3 to 6, 2 to 4, but we'll see.
Where are we at with branches? Are we doing any more branches?
We got a lot of calls because of the windstorm
Yeah.
last week. I did go out, I know I talked to Alderman Peretta, and all the work orders that were called in, that people called in, we did go out and pick those up.
Okay.
Once we're done with the leaves, because of the windstorm, the stuff they did put in the parkway, we'll make another sweep.
Okay. Can you tell everybody what the branch should look like? My neighbor basically dragged a tree out there, and it's been sitting there, and he doesn't understand.
If you
Yeah.
look, and I know it's on the city's website also, it shouldn't be over 50 pounds. I think it's 4 feet in length. They have to bundle it. Waste Management will pick it up then. You know, if it's, well, not this time of year, it's only during a certain time of year that Waste Management will pick it up. But if you look on the website, all those restrictions are on the website. We always run into people who put out whole trees and that. Is there occasion where we cut them up and get them? Yes, but we can't continue to do that. It's pretty time-consuming and not really effective. So.
I must say, that chipper, because I saw you guys chip up half a tree, because a half
Well,
a
that
tree
new
went down.
chipper that we got for the
It was
AV
unbelievable. Just
removal, which
sucked
we
it all up.
purchased 2 years ago, that'll take a giant load, yeah.
It's just very cumbersome when you guys are trying to maneuver that, so people could at least cut it down a little bit.
It's pretty, actually, the one on Black Hawk, it took pretty much that whole tree at
Yeah.
once, so, yeah.
All right.
Gone in 30 seconds.
What are the, Joe, real quick, what are the rules for the leaves? Because I've seen people bag, I've seen them put them on the parkway, and I've seen them put them on the street.
Waste Management will pick them up, if they put them in the bags and they are tagged, and they buy the tags for Waste Management. A lot of people really don't do the bags as much, a lot of people rake them out. The problem we run into, like with the rain recently, people like to rake them into the street so it doesn't kill their sod, which in turn plugs up the storm drains.
Right.
So we don't suggest that they do that, but again, we're willing to work with everybody, but leaves can be a cumbersome job at times, so, and dealing with the weather also.
So if you leave them in the parkway, you pick them up?
Yeah, all they have to do is rake them to the curb. Yeah, and we'll be buying. Again, people want a certain date of when they'll be around. We start 2 trucks in, what I say, the north end of town, the south end of town. They meet in the middle, and they sweep all the subs. But we can't give you an exact date. I can't say I'll be in Darren's section on Thursday and Jim's section on Friday. We do the whole town. We don't know how thick the leaves are going to be in certain areas. Some areas have more mature trees, and other areas take a little longer, so.
Okay.
These don't fall in Karen Spring.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Anything else for new business? Sure. Any open floor comments out there? What do you guys, was it this or jail? What are you guys doing back there? Those high school kids.
Probably Julie Public for 1836 yet, Mayor?
What's that?
1836 yet, or do you want to put a little public?
Yeah, when is that? I can't remember the date.
February 25th?
You know what?
We'll go ahead on that
I'll make a
later.
statement next time.
It's in the water bill.
Okay.
It'll be on the water bill this month, yeah.
All right. Oh, it's for government class? Yeah. Okay.
You just want to come sit in the middle here, get closer notes?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, so I have a motion to adjourn,
Second.
seconded by Joanne. All in favor? Aye. You guys want to soldier on, or does anybody need a break?
2 minutes.
2 minutes? We need a 2 minute. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
You're on the clock.
The mayor
All right, we're going to start with the city council meeting. Donna, can you take another roll call, please?
Sir Petracos?
Here.
Capadona?
Here.
Galogly?
Here.
Deskin?
Here.
Vandermeer?
Here.
Coretta?
Here.
Bartleson?
Here.
All right, can I have a motion to have a consent
I'll
agenda?
make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, that was Paretta, Capadona, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so on the consent agenda is the regular city council meeting minutes from November 4th, the committee of the whole meeting minutes from November 4th. We have our payroll, November 8th, approval of various bills. We've got the 2016 annual meeting calendar. There's a traffic light preemption intergovernmental agreement between the city of Lockport and Lockport Township Fire Protection District. There's a contract for the design and engineering streetscape along State V3. There's the Canal Days Detour, which is Resolution 15083. And there's Oak Creek Unit 2 Letter of Credit Reduction, which was Resolution 15085. So I'm looking to have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Deskin
Second?
and Alderwoman Bartleson. And we need a roll call. Yes, thank you.
Petracos?
Yes.
Capadona?
Yes.
Galogly?
I vote yes on all matters on the consent agenda except those that pertain to my employer. On those items, and in this case, item 4, various bills, I abstain from voting.
Tommy, write that out for you, man? Yeah. That sounded so official. I liked it.
What do you mean?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, please, continue.
Deskin?
Yes.
Vandermeer? Coretta?
Yes.
Bartleson?
Yes.
All right, very good.
Does that so well.
All right. Lisa, what do you got for us?
The 2015 budget ordinance 15-028. No changes have been made since the last time we discussed this budget, so we're seeking approval.
All right, anybody have any, well, let me do a motion. Can I have a motion to approve? Vandermeer,
I'll second it.
Mr. Capadona, any things anybody needs to say? Pretty good? All right, let's do a roll call, please.
Petracos?
Yes.
Capadona?
Yes.
Galogly?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Vandermeer?
Yes.
Coretta?
Yes.
Bartleson?
Yes.
All right, next we're doing the facade grant reimbursement for Rich.
Yes. This evening, Rich with Lockport Vacuum for the property at 1040 South State. As the council may recall, back in September 2nd, we had brought this before you. They were looking to do some repair, replacement, and painting of the rotting window trim on the front facade of the building. And the council authorized the grant for this property in the amount of $3,000. The work has been completed. Staff has received all the appropriate documentation showing it's been paid for. And therefore, we are seeking from the council a motion to authorize reimbursement of $3,000 to Rich Studer for the completion of improvements to the property located at 1040 South State Street.
All right, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Second it.
All right, Galogly and Petrakos. Can I have a roll call?
Petracos?
Yes.
Galogly? Whoops, I'm sorry, Capadona?
Yes.
Galogly?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Vandermeer?
Yes.
Coretta?
Yes.
Bartleson?
Yes.
6 days.
All right, very good. All right, Senior Finley.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. As you know, I told you at the committee of the whole, we had to go out to bid for our fuel contract at the last meeting. The city's current fuel supplier contract expires December 31st of this year. The contractor is responsible to provide fuel to the police department, public works, and the city vehicles and equipment. We advertised for the new contract. It was published in the Herald on Monday, November 2nd, 2015, stating all proposals for the city of Lockport 2016 fuel contract were due on Tuesday, November 10th, 2015 at 10 a.m. The two proposals were received and open read aloud at the Public Works facility. The results are below. As you can see in your packet, Avalon had the lowest vendor markup. The Opus low rack price is subject to change. The only thing that can change is the vendor markup. Obviously, gas prices are a lot lower than they were when we did the last contract, so we got some good prices. So then the recommendation would be, motion to pass the resolution number 15089, which is a resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Avalon Petroleum Company for the purchase of 87 octane auto fuel and for the purchase of diesel fuel under the City of Lockport fuel contract from January 1, 2016 to December 31, 2016.
All right, have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Alderman Beretta,
I'll second.
Alderman Galogly. Yeah, you might as well do a roll call.
Petracos,
Yes.
Capadona,
Yes.
Galogly,
Yes.
Liskin,
Yes.
Vandermeer,
Yes.
Beretta.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Thank you. Real quick, I know Bennett also asked about the snow. I got a little off on the chipping and the brush, but we have the town split into 10 routes. So typically, we'd have a large, if it's a, we'd have 10 large trucks out and then 10 cul-de-sac trucks out. So at any given time, depending on the amount of snow, there's 20 people out at a time. So they cover all 10 of those routes with a large truck and what we call a cul-de-sac truck. So at probably Friday night, there'll be 20 of them out. I'm hoping not, but we'll see.
Yes, we're all hoping it.
Okay? All right.
Just drive around. I'll drive around.
What happened to those college kids? That's what they call their teacher, man. Yeah, they came in late and left early, man.
Yeah, the hole's not a real
He
meeting.
signed, so they can
Darren
leave.
signed, boy.
I actually had their teacher when we were both alive.
Yeah, we'll call her and tell her that they were late and left early, so. All right, can I have a, if there's nothing else, anything else? All right, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Get that, Donna? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I don't.
Okay.
All right, the Hawks game starts at